How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kufay, Daf 105 of Masechta BavaMetzia. Friends, friends. Today's Daf, what do you want me to tell you? Alright, we're going to start in the Mishnah, two Mishnayos today. We're going to start on the Mishnah on Kufay with Aleph, about 3-4 lines or so before it gets wide. So if Ruvain is working the field for Shimon, alright, there you go. So it's talking about a renter, a chocher as opposed to a makabel, right? So again, hamakabel soda mechaver. Okay, so Reuven is renting a field from Shimon. V'lo rotz lenachish. He didn't want to weed. V'amar lo. And Reuven says to Shimon, "Ma'ich baslach? Who really? Why do you care if I weed or not? Hol v'ani nosein lecha es chachircha. You should. I mean, as long as I pay you the rent, why do you care? We agreed upon how much money I have to pay you for the field. I'll pay you that. Leave me alone. Why do you care if I weed or not?" So ein shomen lo. We don't listen to Reuven. That is not a viable argument. Like, what do you care? Because Shimon can respond to Reuven. Because Shimon says, well, the lease is going to end eventually, and you're going to pack up your bags and leave, and you're going to leave me with a wheat farm. I feel like I have some friends who might not mind that. Says the Gemara. I Omar le Levasar Hachi Karivnala. What if Reuven says to Shimon, okay, you know what, Shimon? I'm not going to weed, but I'm not going to weed. But how about this? After the harvest, I'll plow. So that's if the whole point of weeding is to like rip up the weeds, I'll plow and rip up the weeds. So Amalei chite ma'al yasa bo'ina. But Shimon says, yeah, but you're going to be paying me with the wheat of the field, and I want that to be good wheat, not all grassy, weedy wheat. V'i Amalei zavinina lach chite mishuka. So Reuven says, all right, well, when it's payday, I'll go to the market, I'll go to Shuk Machne Yehuda, and I'll buy you the most geschmack wheat you've ever had in your life. Amalei chite de aroi bo'ina. Says, no, I want the wheat of my field. And if Reuven says, okay, fine. You know what? The part of the field that I will pay you with, I'll weed that part. Shimon says, yeah, but still, I just want you to weed the freaking field because, if you don't weed the field, then people are gonna the people, the people that the entis in the bungle colony Shabbos afternoon to die cooking no fat mandelbread. So they're gonna start spreading rumors about my field, that it's not a good field, it's all weedy, and nobody's going to rent it. So but wait, 1 second, why are we talking about all of a sudden the yentis in the bungalow and colony Shabbos afternoon? The Mishnah had said why Reuven needs to weed the field, because otherwise, when he leaves, he's going to leave Shimon with the weed farm. No, okay, so the reason is because Shimon says, look, you need to weed the field to get rid of all the weeds. And even if you're going to plow after your harvest, that's not going to help, because any weeds that were there and their seeds got on the ground, and even plowing, if the seeds are already there, then the plowing isn't going to help. I need you to be weeding as you go in order to make sure that no weeds are there or are going to grow or going to seed or going to anything. Just weed. Says the Mishnah. Okay, so what if Reuven, so this sounds like a kablonus kind of thing. I believe that this is a kablonis kind of thing. Where am I? Was Yossi say anything? Come on. Kablonusa. Yeah, exactly. It's kablonus. So this is where it's a sharecropping agreement. So Reuven is sharecropping on Shimon's land. V'lo osisa, and the land, it just pasha. It was a bad year. I mean, it didn't produce much. So they have the sharecropping agreement. Let's say 50-50. Let's say. So Reuven's going to get half of the yield, and Shimon will get the other half. But the field isn't really yielding much. It's just a bad year. If it produced enough, it didn't produce a lot, but if it produced enough to make a pile, the Gemara is going to explain how much a pile is. So he can't just pack his bags and say, I'm going home. If it's enough to make a pile, so Reuven's he's got to keep working the field. Amar Yehuda, my kitzba bikri. Yehuda says, what good is a pile? Rather, the significant measure is if it produced enough to be able to produce enough seeds to plant for the next year. Now, I'm not a farmer, so I don't really know how this works. But apparently, apparently, if a field produces 100 bushels of wheat, so 100 bushels of wheat will provide enough seeds for way more than that. You only need to use the seeds from a small amount of the yield, right? Obviously, if it was you needed all the yield, all the wheat in order to plant it, well then you won't be able to eat any of it because you have to just keep on planting it. So Yehuda says if the field produced at least enough of a yield so that you'll have enough seeds to plant the field next year, well then that's considered enough that he can't just go home. Okay. Says the Gemara, Rabbanon, the Rabbis taught, a person, right, so Reuven is sharecropping on Shimon's land and the field just pashit, it's not a good year. Im yesh ba k'dei lahamid kri, chayv l'tapel ba. So if there is enough, if it produces enough to create a pile, so then chayiv l'tapel ba. So then he's got to stick it out. He can't just pack up his bags. Shekach kosef lo, because this is what Reuven, because this is what's in the agreement. On a okim ve'onir, I will get up and I will plow ve'ezra and I will seed ve'echtzod and I will reap. I think reap is maybe to harvest. Ve'amer, and I will bundle stuff. Ve'adush, and I will thresh. Ve'idri, and I will winnow. Winnowing, you take a winnowing fork and you take the wheat and after threshing, I think I'm not a farmer, but apparently, but I watched a YouTube video the other week about threshing and winnowing. So you take, I guess, all this wheat and you put it on the floor, and then you get some cows to start walking all over it. That's threshing. And then after that, you take a winnowing fork and you just start picking up the wheat and throwing it into the air, and the wind just blows away the chaff. I think it's called the chaff. And it leaves you with the wheat kernels. I think maybe they're called wheat kernels. And that's, I guess, what you would use to then, I guess, grind up and make into bread or something. Alright, ve'edush ve'idri, okay, now winnow ve'okim karya kadomach, and I will make a pile for you. Ve'tesi ono ve'tesi ant ve'tito palga, and then you can come and take half of the pile. Ve'ono ba'amalu ve'nafkus yodi, and then me, and in return for my hard work and my investment, palga, I'll take the other half. And how much is there for a pile? They could take a pitch with the winnowing fork and stick it into the pile, and it'll stay. It'll stay standing. That is enough to. So that would be a big enough pile to be considered a pile. What if the winnowing fork is kind of sticking out? it's like, yeah, it could stand up in the pile, but like it, it's sticking out a little bit, like on the sides and stuff. Is that considered a significant enough pile? So Tashma Amar Babao Ledidim Farshlim Minid Rabbi Yosef Rab Chanina Kol She'ein Kones Shelo Roe Pnei Acham. As long as like the main scooping up part of the fork, you can't see the sun, i.e. it's like submersed in the pile, that's considered a big enough pile. Itmar Levi Amar Shalosh Sa'in. So Levi says that this is 3 sa'as. The Verbiane Amre Sa'asayim, by the Besmensh Verbiane, they said 2 sa'as. Amr Shlakish Sa'asayim Sh'amr Chutz Menach Hotzah. It says Shlakish, when we're talking about 2 sa'as, we're talking about after all of the expense. When we're talking about like 2 sa'as, we're talking about after any expense and investment that that Reuben had to make, meaning what he's left with is 2 sa'as worth. After everything else is accounted for, so that's what we're talking about. Tanan awesome. We learned over there. Where's over there? In Uktzin. That sounds like some Masechta Uktzin. Pritze Zaysim, Vanovim, Pritze olives and Pritze grapes. Beishami Tam Vesil Matayin. Beishami says that they are Tameh, that they constitute food that could be Tumas Ochlin. Vesil Matayin, Beisil says Tahor, that they are that they would not constitute Tumas Ochlin. My Pritze Zaysim, okay, as I'm sure you're wondering, what are Pritze Zaysim? Pritze olives. Amr Rav Huna Rishe Zaysim, says Rav Huna, evil olives, bad olives. Amr Rav Yosef Maikra, what's the pasuk that means that Pritze means bad? Uvnei Pritze Amcha, and the bad people of your nation, Yinosu Lahamid Chazon V'Nechshalu, they're going to try to make some kind of a vision and they're going to fail. Rav Nachman Beitzchak Amr Yachav Holid Ben Paritz Shofech Dam, that a Paritz Ben son is going to spill blood. And what? At what point is it what's considered like these bad olives? Like, how do you know that they're like bad olives? If you put like all of this, these grapes if you put these olives into the olive press and all it produces is 4 kavs of oil. The Verbiane Amri Sa'asai. By Verbiane they say 2 sa'as. Now 1 sa'a is 6 kavs, so 2 sa'as is 12 kavs. So Elazar had said 4 kavs of oil. Verbiane had said 12 kavs of oil, the korah in the press. They don't actually argue. So Rabbi Elazar is talking about where in a place where they would put 1 core of olives into the press, and therefore he said if it only produced 4 kavs of oil, that would be considered evil. But in a place where they triple that amount, where they put 3 cores of olives into the press, well then 12, less than 12, I guess 12 or less than 12 kavs of olives would be considered evil. Fine. Tanarbanan the rabbis taught. Alu ba'ilon shekocho ra. Okay, if you have 2 people, one of them is Tommy, he's like a zav, and the other one's like not, he's tahor, but they climb a tree together. Very nice. Shekocho ra, it's a weak tree, which means that like the tree is gonna like bend over, and be'etzim somehow the zav is going to be, depending on who's on top, who's on the bottom, either the zav is going to be leaning on the Torah guy, the Torah guy is going to be leaning on the zav, and it's going to be tumas, I guess, midras. Okay, uvesocha shekocha ra, or if the tree is strong but the branch is weak and they're on that branch, Tameh, so the Torah person becomes Tameh. Echidam ilan shekocha ra. We're by the way, we're giving these teachings because these are Rabbianite teachings. We're like going to do a bunch of Rabbianite teachings now. So Echidam ilan shekocha ra. What's considered a tree with bad strength? Amid Rabbianai. So say this mention Rabbianai. Kol she'ein bi'ikaro lachok rova. Okay, if it's too thin, if it's not wide enough that you'd be able to get a rova, I guess a rova of a kav or a saw? Yeah, I guess a rova of a kav. Alright, was that a quarter of a kav, I guess? Alright. Hechidami socha shekochara, what's considered a bad branch? If you could kind of wrap your hand around the whole branch, you put the, wrap your hand around the branch, so then it would be considered a bad branch. Tananosim, we learned over there in Oalos. Wow, pulling out all the good stuff. Hamalach bebeis hapras. Anybody who's walking bebeis hapras, whatever beis hapras comes up, I always got to remind myself exactly what it is. It's like one of those sugyas that's whenever it comes up, it's going to be really technical, and it has to do with tumah, right? Beis hapras is basically a field that there was a grave in it, but then some shmendrik plowed the field, and now we don't know, the grave may have been scattered who knows where. So therefore there's a suffix, you can't, a kohen can't walk there because he might, step on a bone and move around the bone. You don't know where the corpse is. The field was plowed. So therefore you have to be concerned about tumah. So now, where are we? So Tananosim Amahalach bebeis hapras agabi avonim shochel lahosid. Interesting. So if a person is walking in a beis hapras, but he's not walking directly on the ground where he would be able to move a bone directly. He's walking on, tiles, on stones or whatever. So it would require more substantial, so if there was a bone under the stone, and you push the stone into the bone and you move it, so then that would be, be matami tumas hesit. But, it would require more substantial weight. So here we're talking about, so agabe avonim shochel lahosid. So if he's walking on stones that you would be able to move them, then I guess that would move the bone. So ala adam vala behema shekolchen ra, and you're riding in a person or an animal who's weak. So we're concerned that you may be weighing down the person or the animal to end up moving the stone, which will end up moving the bone. So what's considered a person with bad strength? Well, if you ride him and his knees are knocking against each other, what's considered a animal with bad strength? If while you're riding it, it's defecating, so that is it has bad strength. For prayers and for tefillin, 4 kavs. The tefillah mahi, what are you talking about? 4 kavs for davening? So the Tanya is willing to buy. I know a person is schlepping epis. He's got a book bag. Okay, he's got a knapsack on. V'gizman tefillah, and now it's time to pray. So what do you do with the knapsack? Can you continue wearing the knapsack? Do you have to put it down? So pachis midalid kabin. If the knapsack weighs less than 4 kavs, so mavshil nachor, you can just swing it behind your back and you can pray. I bought a kabin, but if it weighs 4 kavs, maniach al gabe karka, put it down and then pray. How much is 4 kavs? I wish I knew. That would be good to know. How much is 4 kavs? Anybody know? The tefillin mai, and what's the deal with tefillin? The Tanya is willing to buy. So if a person is carrying something on his head, utfillin berosho, and his tefillin are also on his head. So imayu tefillin rotzitzos osir. If the tefillin were getting smushed by the what he was carrying on his head, so that's not okay. V'em lav, but if the tefillin are not getting crushed, so mutter, well then it's fine to wear the tefillin. Remember back, at one point there was a time when people wore tefillin all day. Right? You wore tefillin all day, and therefore you would carry stuff in tefillin. Be'ezo masoi amu b'masoi shel aibos kabin, and what's considered something that you're carrying that is gonna crush the tefillin if it's 4 kavs. Tani Rebchia Tara Motzi Zevel al Rosho Utzfilin Berosho. If a person is, I guess, taking out dung of sorts or garbage or trash on his head, and he's got tefillin on his head, so I guess you have to do, you don't want to have trash on your head and also tefillin on your head, so don't just move the tefillin to the side of your head, I guess, and don't tie them on your loins, because I guess either of those options would not be very nice. But but you can tie the tefillin shel rosh on your arm in the place where the tefillin shel yad is, mishum zeu. Mishum devei Shila Amr, they said by the BavaMetzia of Shila, I guess, afilu matpachas sheloyin osul aniach al harosh sheyesh bo tefillin. Even something as unheavy as the cloth that you put your tefillin away in, you shouldn't carry on your head if you're wearing your tefillin. V'chama, how much does that weigh? I guess Amr Abai afilu riva de pumbedisa, even a quarter of pumbedisa. It's very light. So it sounds like they're saying, you shouldn't be carrying anything on your head if you're wearing tefillin on your head. So Rabbi Yehuda had said in the Mishnah that the amount of wheat necessary for the sharecropper to have to continue working the field is at least the amount of a pile, said the Tanna Kamma. Rabbi Yehuda says no, it's the amount of wheat that would allow you to, if they produced enough wheat that you'd be able to use the seeds to seed the field next year. So then the sharecropper needs to stay and work the field. V'chama kedei nefila. How much is this kedei nefila? How much is this? How much wheat is there that would allow you to do this? Rabbi Ami Omer says, Rabbi Ami Omer Yochanan, I bought sa'in lekor. 4 sa'ah of wheat would be enough to plant a core of wheat. Rabbi Ami delay Omar, but Rabbi Ami himself said shmones sa'ah in the core. It takes 8 sa'ahs of wheat in order to produce enough seeds to be able to plant a core. A core is 30 sa'ah. So interesting. Okay, so a core is 30 sa'ah. So Rabbi Yochanan says that 4 core so 4 core of wheat, 4 sa'ah of wheat is necessary to be able to, so I guess it's like 1.7 it would be needed, right? So 4 sa'ah of wheat would be necessary if you wanted to produce enough seeds to plant a core. But Rabbi Ami says it's 8 sa'ah. Amar le'ahu savar Rav Chama brei de Rabbi Barvua. Certain elder said to Rav Chama brei de Rabbi Barvua, Az baraloch, I'll explain to you the discrepancy. B'shnei de Rabbi Yochanan ava shmeina ara, b'shnei de Rabbi Ami ava k'chisha ara. During Rabbi Yochanan's years, the land was very good, was very productive, and therefore 4 sa'ah was enough for a core, to produce a core. But by Rabbi Ami already it required 8 sa'ah for a core. Tananosim we learned over there in Peah. Haruach shepizra es ha'omarin. If the wind blew and kind of blew away the sheaves, and now they got mixed together with the leket, and now you don't know which what now are you supposed to leave for the poor people because it all got mixed together. Omdim also, so we evaluate kama leket v'uya la'asos. Well, because leket is the stuff that kind of falls as you're harvesting, right? So if then the wind blows, now you can, normally would have just whatever's there is whatever got left there. But now the wind blew, and now you don't know what was actually left there. So you project kama leket v'uya la'asos. What would I guess be the normal expected amount of stuff that would have fallen while you were harvesting? V'nosin la'aniyim, and you give that to you leave that for the poor people. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, nosin la'aniyim kedei nefila. So it says Rav Shimon ben Gamliel that you give the aniyim enough for a nefila, right? Which is like the same lashon that Rabbi Yehuda had mentioned. So v'chama kedei nefila, how much is kedei nefila? Ki also Rav Dimi, Amar Belazer v'temer Rabbi Yochanan, arbas kabin lekor, 4 kavs for a core. Now it's 6 kavs in a sa'ah. So Rabbi Yochanan I mentioned 4 sa'ah for a core. Now we're talking about 4 kavs. That's a lot less. 4 sa'ah is 24 kavs. This is 4 kavs, so 1/6 that amount. But this is specifically for leket, not for how much it would be to produce enough seeds for the whole field. So abaz kav in the core, so 4 kavs per core would be leket. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah lekor zera or lekor tvua. Rabbi Yirmiyah is saying we're talking about for a core of seed or a core of wheat. The mapolis adam, mapolis shvarim. We're talking about if we're seeding, and if we're talking about seeds, are we talking about the amount of seeds for that if you were seeding by hand or if you were seeding with a cow? If you're seeding with a cow, it's more easy and more convenient, but it uses more seeds. Tashma kamina dechiasi Ravin Amr Abo Amr Belazar V'Amr Amr Yochanan Ibas Kabin Lekor Zera. So we're talking about 4 kabin per core of seed. But still it's a question of mapolis adam, mapolis shvarim. Yeah, but we're talking about by doing it by hand or by ox. Teku ich weiß nicht. Peace.